the dialogue around this has only gotten worse since we last talked about it, and now the Ugandan government has officially signed it. So I want to talk about it again. So the Ugandan government has recently signed legislation to criminalize homosexuality more than it was already criminalized. So to be clear, homosexual acts between two people were already criminalized under current Ugandan law. It was already bad. But now, the Ugandan government, with like every single MP except for one voting in favor of this, and the president signing this into law, has made it 10 times worse, creating a culture of fear among the LGBTQ plus community in Uganda. This new legislation covers a wide variety of LGBTQ plus people's daily life. It includes 20-year prison sentences for quote unquote promoting homosexuality. If you want to know what that means, I think a good example would be Russia, because they also have a similar law banning the promotion of homosexuality. And in that case, there were gay couples uploading, TikToks of their daily activities and what it's like to be gay and talking about it's okay to be gay. And that got them criminalized and arrested. So I would imagine that this is going to be very similar in Uganda, with even harsher penalties, 20 years, for going on Twitter, on Ugandan Twitter, and saying, I'm gay, it's okay to be gay, and I live a happy life. That can come with a prison sentence. There is a prison time for getting caught in these types of homosexual acts. And there's even, not only is there a prison time for getting caught in homosexual acts, but also there's 7 years for being caught attempting to engage in homosexual acts. So let's say I lean in for a kiss with a guy, I got caught in a homosexual act, that can come with 7 years. There's a lot more specific stuff that it goes into. For example, aggravated homosexuality, which, hell of a title, by the way, sounds like a band name. Aggravated homosexuality sounds like a punk band. That comes with the death penalty. Now, they define aggravated aggravated homosexuality very vaguely. I'll show you, I'll talk about the parts of it that are not as vague, and I don't like how vague this definition of aggravated homosexuality is. But two examples of it is if somebody has sex with somebody under the age of 18, that is aggravated homosexuality. I don't think anybody really is going to care that much if somebody raping a child is penalized this way. But I do believe that the standard should be across the board, that if you're going to execute and kill people for engaging in this type of behavior, I'm against the death penalty, but if you're going to do it, then it has to be across the board. It should not just be the gays, it should be everyone. If it's an old man doing it to a little girl, it should come with the same penalty than if it's an old man doing it to the little boy. It should be across the board, it should be equal, and the type of penalties that come with it. Another thing that could get you convicted and killed over aggravated homosexuality is having sex as somebody who is HIV positive. If you have sex with somebody while HIV positive, no matter if they know you're HIV positive or not, that can come with the death penalty, which a lot of HIV activist groups are angry about. And I'm not just talking about you know you have HIV, you go out, you give HIV to someone purposefully. I'm talking about you both know that you have HIV, you engage in sex, that can come with the death penalty, which is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. So these laws are gross, these laws are bad, these laws are authoritarian, and a hero for the LGBT community, a real hero for the LGBTQ community came up to stand against this legislation. And of course, when I talk about heroes for the LGBT community, I'm of course talking about Ted Cruz, the Texas senator. He posted in response to this law, "This Uganda law is horrific and wrong. Any criminalization of homosexuality or imposing of the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality is grotesque and an abomination. All civilized nations should join together in condemning this human rights abuse, #LGBTQ. Now, this is the bare minimum, my opinion, saying, hello, I don't believe gays should be executed. I don't believe somebody should be arrested for 20 years because they said on Twitter that being gay is okay, right? Very milquetoast statement from somebody who has spent a lot of their career also demonizing the LGBT community. So I don't want to give him too much credit, but I do need to give him the bare minimum of credit here. The reaction that his community gave him, his followers gave him, many of them were in agreement, but a lot of them also weren't. And in fact, either expressed the sentiment of like, who cares? They're not American. Why are you giving your opinion? Or in some cases, straight up defenses of the legislation, defense of this bill. Let me give you a few examples of people reacting to Ted Cruz saying you should not kill gays. Woke Ted Cruz. Globalist Canadian masquerading as a fake cowboy says what? I bet you utilize the woke terms of minor attracted people and younger attracted persons behind closed doors. Ted Cruz is pro butt sex. That's disgusting and anti-life. Why do you hate life, Ted? Gay is not okay. And this is from somebody who I believe somebody actually told me, Jake Niedert, this guy specifically, has worked with some Republican politicians. I forget exactly who it was. Somebody maybe can enlighten me in the chat or in the comment sections when this is eventually posted on YouTube. But he's saying that he got hacked. There was a lot of dialogue on this between other right-wing media figures. Here's an example of Ian Miles Chong saying, you're right, Ted, but also it's not America's job to police their country. Just don't do business with them. But then somebody called Huff for Congress says, in reaction to Ian Miles Chong's disagreeing with Ian Miles Chong about him being right that the legislation is bad, even if Ian Miles Chong is saying it's bad, but also don't talk about it. Huff says, no, Ted, you're not. The last 40 years, and really 70, of Western society has proved one thing with certainty. Either LGBTQ is prohibited entirely, severely, or elements of it will certainly move towards open pedophilia. The P stands for pedophilia. It's very gross, very disgusting comment. The idea that allowing men to get married or not arresting people for being gay will inevitably lead to them touching kids is ridiculous. Not to mention the fact that in Uganda, there is already a problem of older men raping young teenage girls and getting them pregnant. This is already an issue that exists in Ugandan society, of pedophiles going and touching these girls in disgusting ways. This isn't going to help protect anyone. This isn't going to help protect victims. And the idea that criminalizing homosexuality is going to deal a lethal blow to pedophilia in Uganda is ridiculous. It's already a massive problem in Ugandan society with homosexuality already criminalized. Ted Cruz then responded to all of this backlash. He responded to one person who was responding to him saying, this is from Jenna Ellis, independent media personality Jenna Ellis openly disagreed with a pro-LGBTQ tweet from Ted Cruz that said Ugandan penalty for child rape is too harsh. Fixed it for you. Now, to be clear, what Jenna Ellis is doing here is concentrating on one part of the bill, the most mundane part of the bill, when it comes to that specific part, people engaging in inappropriate sexual activity with people under the age of 18. Nobody objects to people under the age of 18 being protected from people who want to prey on them. The reason why Ted Cruz objected to this is because homosexual acts can get you arrested. Openly talking about being gay in Ugandan society can get you 20 years. In effect, while the law changed so identifying as gay can't get you arrested anymore, it used to be that merely identifying as gay. So literally just walking down the street, they find out you're gay, that can get you arrested. That was taken out. But to actively be gay in any way in Ugandan society is criminalized, whether talking about it openly or engaging in lovemaking with another man, another woman, depending on who you are, vice versa. And she's trying to hyper-focus on this to try to paint Ted Cruz in a negative light. Ted Cruz responds to this, saying, Jenna, not sure why you're defending this barbaric Ugandan law. It imposes life imprisonment for consenting adults who engage in gay sex. That's ridiculous. You or I may or may not agree with their choices, but consenting adult, I love how in this, he's like, please understand, the queers are, look, I don't like the queers are icky. I understand the queer, ew, they kiss men, ew, I understand. But maybe we shouldn't throw them all in prison for being gay? Maybe, guys? Come on. This is the type of moderate position Ted Cruz has been put into because of how crazy part of the Republican base has become in the Trump MAGA era. Not saying that they weren't always crazy. There was always a crazy part of the Republican base, but the more loud and proud of it than ever. This is crazy. And look, in American society, being gay is more accepted than ever. And the polling data from Pew Research data shows that this trend is only most likely, hopefully, going to increase. I know that there's a lot of dialogue, very negative dialogue about the LGBTQ plus community. That concerns me. I know it concerns a lot of you guys. And it's not just about gay people. It's also about bisexual people, trans people, queer people generally. But when it comes to gay people, the polling data is clear. Their acceptance in American society continues to increase year after year after year. And so I am worried that this growing dialogue isn't only going to stop further progress on LGBT issues when it comes to the trans community, but could start to roll back progress for the gay community, as politicians like Ted Cruz could be really bullied into their base to not only accept a position that is not acceptable with independents, but maybe they could have the independents ignore that position due to an economic crisis, making them favor the Republicans over the Democrats, any number of reasons. But they want to have Ted Cruz and other politicians like him be led by the nose by religious radicals who want to see being queer in and of itself as a criminalizing feature of somebody. That if they're queer, they can criminalize that and force it back into the underground, force it back out of the public scene, force them back into the closet to try to get rid of this public degeneracy. There is a real faction within the American right that want to bring that back. Are they a minority? Yes, but they're trying hard to lead American politicians by the nose. Thank goodness that Ted Cruz is not captured by these radicals, even if he is captured on a lot of these anti-LGBTQ plus policies and has been historically from his position in Texas politics. But this shows how the escalating rhetoric against LGBTQ plus people is affecting people. If you get caught in one of these anti-LGBTQ propaganda bubbles, it isn't that crazy that we're seeing more and more people in these comment sections expressing this vitriolic rhetoric. These people have always existed, but they seem a lot more bold recently, don't they? Lastly, I just want to say,
morally corrupt, bankrupt man.
As much as this is becoming a microcosm of American politics, I do want to wrap this up by saying that it is Ugandans who are going to have to live in fear. It is the Ugandan LGBT community who is now trying to seek refugee status in other countries and trying to find ways out of Uganda so they can protect themselves. And it is the LGBTQ plus Ugandans that I truly feel for. I know that the president of Uganda has responded to the UN's condemnation from basically every single NGO with human rights that has to do with LGBTQ plus issues, or even just the issues, just basic human rights issues, have condemned this law. It has been condemned by a number of diplomats and political figures, but the government is steaming ahead with it. It is popular in their parliament. There was only one person who voted against the law. Everyone else voted for the law or abstained. And he said, the president said that they will not respond to such imperialism, such colonialism. He was basically saying that this is another example of the colonialists and the imperialists trying to lead Uganda some way when we're trying to like do what's best for humanity by arresting the gays. You cannot defend your horrific laws and your horrific actions merely by saying any critique from the outside world is colonialism, is the world being imperialist towards us. It is perfectly reasonable for nation states to not want to engage with another nation state or facilitate the outcomes of arresting people for loving people, for their sexual orientation. It makes sense that nation states would not want their economy or their systems, or, for example, their police gear going to countries like Uganda, which could see that gear used to persecute the LGBTQ plus community. This is completely understandable, 100% understandable. And if they can't understand that, then honestly, and I mean this in the most sympathetic way possible, then they're letting a victim complex overtake them. If you engage in human rights abuses, you cannot use arguments against colonialism and imperialism to continue those human rights abuses. Human rights abuses are human rights abuses. Human rights are fundamental. I believe they should be upheld by international law. And I also believe that human beings everywhere deserve to be protected and not killed for loving who they want to love. Period. End of paragraph.